Coronation Street tease that morning's sunlight trickled through the cafe windows on Weatherfield's most infamous thoroughfare, yet beneath its warm glow lay a chill of secrets set to shatter the fragile calm that Maria and Gary had only just reclaimed. As Maria cradled her steaming cappuccino, eyes bright with relief at Gary's survival, the unspoken question hung between them like a spectre. Had he told her the whole story of that fateful night? Maria's joy was genuine. Only hours earlier, she had rushed to the hospital after learning that Gary had narrowly escaped an assault that left him battered, both in body and spirit. The news of Lou's arrest had electrified the community. Lou Carpenter, once a trusted friend of the Platt family, now shackled by allegations of extortion and violence. In the glow of that victory, Maria felt invincible, certain that the storm had passed. Yet Gary, his shirt stained with blood that had long since scabbed over, wore an expression that spoke of deeper wounds. Even as he smiled, his gaze flickered to the doorway, anticipating an intrusion Maria could not yet sense. He settled opposite her, reaching out as if to reassure, but the tremor in his fingers betrayed his calm facade. Maria leaned forward eagerly, her voice a soft melody of relief. "I was so worried," she murmured, eyes alight. "I thought I'd lost you." Her hand found his, and for a moment, the world outside ceased to exist. Yet as Gary nodded, a shadow passed across his features, an echo of something he could not bring himself to voice. The early chapters of their lives together had been a testament to hope. After Maria's painful divorce from Liam, Gary had stepped into her world with the steady warmth of a lighthouse guiding a vessel battered by storm. Their laughter in Roy's rolls, their quiet dinners at home, the shared dreams of a future. These memories lay like stepping stones across the tumultuous river of her past. But that night, when Gary vanished into the dark streets, all certainties fractured. He remembered it with crystalline clarity. The evening had begun innocuously, Lou Carpenter requesting Gary's help with some. Under the lights, Gary had felt uneasy. Only later, as the ethereal glow of dawn approached, did Lou's motives reveal themselves. A clandestine meeting with Maria, overheard and meticulously recorded, a threat to expose private conversations, misinterpreted to suggest Maria's mistrust of Gary. In exchange for silence, Lou demanded a sizable sum, money Gary could not possibly afford. When Gary had refused, the extortion escalated. Lou's face, usually creased with laughter, contorted into something cold and merciless. What followed was an ambush so swift and brutal that Gary found himself fighting for his life. The echo of blows, the hiss of breath in his ears, truth and lies swirling like a toxic miasma around him. Gary pushed back to the present, the weight of that memory heavy on his chest. He had come close to exposing Lou's true game, how he had used Gary's love for Maria as leverage. But to tell Maria the full story would be to admit his own shame, that he, in his desperation, had betrayed the sanctity of their trust by keeping secrets, by allowing Lou to manipulate their lives. If the police dug deeper into Lou's extortion ring, the facts would surface. Maria, meanwhile, chatted animatedly about their plans for the week, a day trip to the Lake District, perhaps, or a quiet meal at Nathan's. She laughed at his jokes, unaware of the storm brewing behind his facade. Each laugh tightened the knots in Gary's stomach, for it reminded him of how unmoored he had become. He wanted to confess. Wanted to bare his soul and let her decide whether their love was strong enough to survive his deception. But fear gripped him, fear that she would withdraw her trust, fear that she would see him as complicit in Lou's cruelty, fear that she would abandon him. Down at the station, detectives were piecing together Lou Carpenter's statement. They asked Lou to provide evidence, but Lou, cunning and resourceful, presented only the barest insinuations and twisted anecdotes. The police, lacking corroborating proof, until Gary could testify, found themselves in limbo. The balance of power, for now, lay precariously with Lou. If Gary recanted, withdrew his complaint, Lou would walk free. If Gary told the truth, Lou's reputation and liberty would crumble like the facade of Number 9's aging brickwork. The dilemma tormented Gary. Gary replayed the confrontation in his mind, seeing Lou's sly smile as he tried to tug on Gary's heartstrings by weaving stories of loneliness and hardship. Lou's pleas had been so artful, about his children, motherless now and drifting without parental guidance. Gary, moved by compassion, had considered dropping the charges. But that momentary flicker of pity threatened to undo everything. If he surrendered to Lou's manipulation, he would betray the memory of the assault, diminish Maria's pain, and compromise his own integrity. Yet telling Maria the whole truth carried risks no less severe. He imagined her face, hurt and betrayed, as he detailed the extent of his affair, the betrayal that had opened the door for Lou's extortion. Maria's innocence, so beautiful and pure, might shatter under the weight of his confession. She might question every tender moment they shared, every promise made under the soft glow of their kitchen lights. Sensing his reticence, Maria finally set down her cup. The clatter of china on wood sounded loud in the hush. Her gaze sharpened. The detective's instincts, she had inherited from her own mother, flickered to life. "Gary," she said, voice steady but insistent, "tell me exactly what happened that night. Start from the beginning." He swallowed hard, the air thick with unspoken dread. He began haltingly, admitting the worst, the confession that he had been unfaithful, that he had let Lou's whisperings poison his mind against her. He spoke of the extortion, the attack, the murky fog of violence that had followed. Lou as the sole villain. Maria nodded, tears glistening in her eyes, relief mingling with confusion. She reached across the table once more, her hand warm against his. "I believe you," she whispered, "but I need to know if Lou really planned this because of me. Did he say why?" Gary hesitated. Any detail he provided risked unraveling the lie. He offered instead vague conjecture. He said something about bad blood, about an argument you'd had with him last year. Maria's brow furrowed. No argument had occurred. "That doesn't make sense," she said. "Lou and I never argued." The lie began to crack. Gary's heart thundered as he fabricated a memory. You chastised him about the baby photos. You said he was prying." Maria shook her head, confusion morphing into suspicion. She folded her arms, the playful light gone from her eyes. "Gary, what aren't you telling me?" Outside, a stray cat darted between parked cars, the world moving on uncaringly as two hearts teetered on the brink of irrevocable rupture. Gary's throat tightened. He could feel the walls of their relationship closing in. He wanted to run, away from the cafe, away from the deceit, away from the consequences. But he remained seated, held by love, by guilt, by the unshakable knowledge that truth was his only path, however harrowing. At that moment, his phone buzzed with a new message from the station, a request for an interview to clarify details of the extortion. If he agreed, detectives would ask him under oath to elaborate on the circumstances, eliciting the real impetus behind Lou's demand. If he refused, Lou's freedom would become increasingly likely. Maria watched him wrestle with the decision. Her heart ached, torn between faith in the man she loved and the gnawing certainty that something lay hidden. She squeezed his hand. "Whatever it is," she said, voice trembling, "we face it together." Gary closed his eyes, inhaled, and exhaled. He lifted his gaze, meeting hers with a fractured honesty. I need to tell you everything," he began, voice low and solemn. The world around them stilled as he prepared to unburden his soul, knowing that the next breath would carry them across a threshold from which there was no return. Gary drew a shuddering breath, the weight of his confession settling over the two of them like a winter's frost. Maria's eyes widened, hope and dread warring in her gaze, as she braced herself for the truth. He swallowed again, steeling himself. "I slept with Lou," he said, each word measured, painful. It happened that night I disappeared. He used that moment, when I was vulnerable, confused, to convince me that you'd lost faith in me. He told me you'd said things, hurtful things, about our relationship. And in my weakness, I believed him. I thought I could protect you by distancing myself. I thought if I let him get close, he'd leave you alone. But instead, he betrayed me too. He recorded our conversation, twisted it, and used it to blackmail me. Silence fell between them, thick and brittle. Maria's hand fell from his, her breath catching in her throat. The cafe's bustle faded into a distant hum. Gary watched her face, heart pounding, as tears welled in her eyes. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered, voice cracking. Why lie? Gary's gaze dropped. I was ashamed. Ashamed that I'd doubted you, that I'd betrayed you. And when Lou assaulted me, I felt broken. I thought if you knew everything, about the doubt, about the betrayal, you'd leave me. So I hid it. Maria stood abruptly, her chair scraping back. The movement startled Gary from his guilt. She crossed the room without looking at him, her coat draped over her arm. The heat of her anger was almost palpable. Gary rose to follow, his plea half-formed on his lips, but she raised a hand. Don't, Maria said, voice steely. She checked her phone. I need some air. Outside, the July sun felt oppressive rather than warm. Maria walked swiftly along the cobbled street, passing Roy's Rolls, the cabin, each landmark now tainted with memories of lies. Gary followed at a distance, guilt twisting his stomach. Maria stopped beside the canal, leaning against the iron railing. The water below reflected waves of sunlight. She closed her eyes, fighting tears. When she spoke again, her voice was low and controlled. How long? She asked. Gary's shoulders drooped. Since spring. I thought I could handle it. That if I kept you out of it, I was sparing you pain. Pain. Maria's laugh was sharp. You inflicted it. She turned to face him, eyes glistening. I thought you trusted me. I thought we were equals, partners. She shook her head. This is beyond betrayal. He reached for her hand, but she jerked away. Please, he said. I know I've hurt you, but I love you. I never stopped loving you. Maria looked at him then, really looked, at the lines of guilt etched into his face, at the raw anguish in his eyes. She saw the man she had loved, the man who had comforted her through heartbreak, who had built dreams by her side. But she also saw the lies, the fractures that now ran too deep. I need time, she said softly. I don't know if I can forgive you. Gary nodded, accepting her words as his sentence. I'll do anything. Anything to make this right. She turned away, stepping back onto the street. You should go, she said. Without another word, she walked off, leaving Gary alone beside the canal, the sun beating down on his bowed shoulders. That evening, at the police station, Gary sat before Detective Sergeant Patel. The sterile room, harshly lit, felt like a crucible. He had made the call, agreeing to a formal statement. He knew that once he spoke, Lou's fate and his own reputation would hinge on every word. Patel placed a folder before him. Mr. Windus, we appreciate your cooperation. We need you to provide a full account of the extortion and assault. We'll ask specific questions about the motive, why Mr. Carpenter targeted you. Gary swallowed hard. He thought of Maria, pacing at home, trying to process the revelation. He thought of Lou's children, innocent yet pawns in their father's schemes. And he thought of the assault itself, the thud of fists, the world slipping away in pain. He took a deep breath. I'll tell you everything, he said firmly. Then, quietly, he began to speak. He described the spring evening at the yard, Lou's initial plea for help, the subtle shift when Lou mentioned Maria, how his tone grew darker, more insistent. He recounted the blackmail, the fear that gripped him, the shame that drove him to silence. He spoke of the night he was attacked, each detail crystal clear, the flash of a knife, the crack of bone, the dizziness as blood pooled beneath him. Patel listened, jotting notes. "And the motive?" she asked later. Gary hesitated. "He wanted to punish me, punish us. He thought by exposing our rift, he could break Maria's faith in me. He thought he could wield your trust like a weapon." Patel nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Windus. This will be enough to charge Mr. Carpenter with extortion and assault." As he left the station, the weight on Gary's shoulders felt lighter, yet a new burden had taken its place. The knowledge that Maria had heard of his confession through official channels, detectives and whispers, before he could explain himself. He knew he would face her again soon, but this time, the stakes were higher. Back at the Rover's return, the regulars murmured about the scandal. Rita clutching her tea, Norris peeking through the net curtains, Ken silently frowning at the television. News had spread fast. Gary had given evidence against Lou. Some sided with Gary, applauding his courage. Others thought him foolish for bringing family drama into the public eye. Inside, Maria sat at a corner table, nursing a glass of water. Her cheeks were pale, her eyes rimmed red. Sally Duckworth slid in beside her, concern etched on her face. "Mags, love, how are you holding up?" Sally asked gently, using the nickname only close friends were allowed. Maria managed a small, sad smile. "I'm coping." Her voice wavered. "I never thought I'd see the day I'd welcome Gary's honesty, but I needed the truth." Sally nodded, taking her hand. "Truth hurts, but it sets you free." She squeezed Maria's hand. "Whatever you decide, I'm here." Maria looked at the window, where rain had begun to fall softly, pattering against the glass. "I know," she said. "Right now, I'm not sure what I want. I love him, God help me, I still love him, but I don't know if that love can survive what he's done." Sally reached across and squeezed her shoulder. "Give yourself time. Don't rush feelings you need to sort out." Maria exhaled slowly. "Time, yes. I have to decide if healing together is possible, or if this is the end of our story." That weekend, when the sun broke through the clouds, Lou sat in his modest flat at number 7. His children, Jesse and Philip, played quietly in the corner, unaware of the headline their father had made. Lou paced the room, guilt and defiance warring within him. He had been arrested, humiliated, yet he still believed he'd been right to expose Gary's flaws. Jessie, age 7, looked up from her coloring book. "Daddy, are you sad?" Lou forced a smile. "No, darling. Just tired." He ruffled her hair, his heart twisting with regret. He loved those children, innocent, trusting, and he knew he had endangered their future. His phone buzzed. A text from his solicitor, court date set. Try to reduce charges by cooperating. Mention children's welfare. He stared at the message. Could he plead guilty to a lesser offense? If he did, perhaps he could avoid jail time and remain close to his children. But admitting extortion and assault, it would ruin him. And yet, the thought of his children without a father haunted him more than prison walls. By Monday, Weatherfield buzzed with anticipation for the preliminary hearing at the magistrate's court. Maria sat in the gallery, heart hammering, as Lou's solicitor pleaded for mitigation. He spoke of Lou's decades of community service, his role as a grandfather, the hardship of his widowhood. He painted a portrait of a lonely man pushed too far. When the prosecution called for the full weight of the law, extortion, assault causing actual bodily harm, Maria rose to give her victim impact statement. She spoke steadily, though her voice trembled at times. Lou, you took advantage of someone you called friend. You assaulted him, you manipulated us both, and you endangered children's welfare. I ask this court to consider the severity of these actions. Lou's face remained impassive, but when Maria sat, tears glistened in his eyes. The magistrate leaned forward. Mr. Carpenter, given the nature of these offenses, this court remands you on conditional bail pending trial. Further orders prevent you from contacting Mr. and Mrs. Windus, she concluded. Meanwhile, Gary and Maria met in the cafe one last time before the trial. No declarations of love, only quiet understanding. Maria folded her napkin, meeting his gaze. I'm preparing a witness statement. I want to help ensure justice is done, but I don't know if we have a future. Gary's throat tightened. I understand. I don't expect forgiveness. Maria studied him, seeing both the penitent man and the shattered partner she once knew. I need space to rebuild my life without lies. If that leads me away from you, so be it. He nodded, silent tears tracking down his cheeks. He reached across, hesitated, then gently touched her hand. Thank you, for giving me truth. She withdrew her hand, standing. Goodbye, Gary. He watched her leave, the door swinging shut on the world they once shared. In the days that followed, life on Coronation Street resumed its rhythms. Roy served his famous hot dogs, Ken tinkered at the garage, Sally tended bar. But for Gary, the street grew smaller. Each storefront reminded him of what he'd lost. Maria's absence weighed on him more than any sentence Lou might receive. When Maria began to volunteer at the community center, teaching art to children of overseas workers, Gary realized he could not remain. He approached her after a class one afternoon, the children's laughter echoing around them. Maria, I've decided to leave, he said quietly. I've given statement at the trial. Lou's fate will be decided soon. But I need a fresh start, somewhere I can earn trust again. Maria paused, paintbrush in hand. She looked at him, conflict and compassion mingling in her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. He nodded. I won't forget what we had. But you deserve someone without secrets. She reached out, touching his arm. Goodbye, Gary. I hope you find peace. He offered a sad smile, then walked away, down the cobblestones, past the cabin, toward a life beyond Weatherfield. Outside, Maria watched from across the street as Lou gathered his children and led them away. Lou had faced lies and violence, emerged stronger, and reclaimed her integrity. For now, the street lay silent, its secrets laid bare, its community forever changed by a night of betrayal and a confession that cost two people their future together. Yet in that transformation lay the promise that truth, no matter how painful, could be the foundation for renewal, both for the betrayed and the betrayer. And so, as the sun set over the cobbles, Coronation Street stood ready for new stories to unfold, its residents reminded that in the ebb and flow of life, sometimes only the hardest truths can lead to real beginnings.